Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of Call of the Netherdeep. Just to annoy people, I'm going to say this is episode 33.3 because some people were really mad about that 33.1 and 33.2. But hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Call of the Netherdeep, how to run Call of the Netherdeep, a retrospective on the campaign, and for us to break into chapter 7 and talk about general tips for running the entire thing now that we have done it. If you're tuning in, there's going to be a lot of spoilers, so if you have not watched our Call of the Netherdeep campaign or are about to play in it, maybe don't watch this. Thanks for the click, thanks for the view, but you should probably take a step back and enjoy this campaign on your own. But if you're running this or you are looking just to see what's been going on over the past year since we ran the campaign, this is where you want to be. So hello everybody, I'm Kelly, I'm your Dungeon Master here, I use he and him, and I am very excited to be running this finale. We were meant to do this over a year ago, but the party grew a little bit, and you adapt and you move on. So today we are going to be talking about all sorts of things, including like the final chapter and ways to make this campaign your own. Now that said, it has been a year since we have ran this, so we might be a little rusty on a couple of details. Hopefully this will be beneficial for you. We have been polling people for weeks asking for questions, so hopefully we have some good ones to go over. But before we go into that, we should meet the players one last time. Let's go around in a big circle, starting with Robin.
Hello, I'm Robin. I use she, her pronouns, and I played, it's been a hot minute, but I played Kaeko Skaar, our Goliath barbarian, who also uses she, her pronouns.
Fantastic. Next to you, we've got Christa.
Oh my god, am I that early in the call? Jesus.
Yeah,
hello, hi.
you were
usually
important.
like last. Oh, hello, hi, I'm Christa. I use they, them, or she, her pronouns, and I played Sabina Moorden, I can't say the whole thing because I've forgotten most of it, and Dax, her more bounder beast companion.
We really should have. I wish that Dork Tales had more money, because then we could have made Dax plushies.
Oh my god, right? I do
Dax
have
plush.
very cute stickers, so if you ever see me in person, beg me for a Dax sticker and I'll get you one.
This is true. Down beneath you, we've got the one and only Christopher Wildcock.
What? Hello, everyone. I'm Chris. Go by Blogg in the chat, and I had the wonderful joy to play in this game as Dorlen Wildrock, the armor artificer iron gnome. It's fantastic, and really happy to be here.
Beautiful. And also beautiful is next to you, Caitlan.
Hello, I'm Caitlan. I use she, her pronouns, and I had such a good time playing Xarria Rainn, the tiefling cleric of the Raven Queen.
And of course,
the blood cleric.
Blood cleric, that's right.
Yeah.
The tiefling blood cleric. And last but not least, and very strangely in the last spot, because she's usually very near the front, is Christine.
Hello, I'm Christine. I use she, her pronouns, and yes, I had the fun of getting to play Zenata Vosh, our orc fighter, Echo Knight, who came in a little late to the group with some fun little reveals at the end.
Right. I love watching the YouTube comments pile in of people who didn't realize who you were. That is wonderful. And also wonderful, we didn't have this wonderful sponsor back when we were doing Call of the Netherdeep, but we're so glad that we have them now. Thank you to Bookworm Games for sponsoring this stream. Bookworm Games is your place to get all sorts of things, from dice to teas to familiars. That's right, they even have enamel pins for their Pintober event. You can go over to BackerKit right now and back the Witch's Kitchen enamel pin collection. It's cottagecore, it's lovely, and I think you'll really like it. But if you go to their website at bookwormgames.com, you can support a local Canadian retailer that is able to provide friends like the one that Christa is holding. Oh, why didn't we? It's too bad that they weren't here for Netherdeep, because they could have made a 3D printed Dax. That would have been so wonderful.
Do you not see the chat of what?
I did.
What they're getting into?
So Bookworm Games is a fantastic sponsor, and they will give you 15% off if you use code DorkTales on checkout. They've got all manner of D20 sets, including wooden, gemstone, and more. And I'm very excited to see what they're coming up with in the future, which includes some Dork Tales dice in 2025. I have a note in my calendar that I'm sending the final details to Michael at Bookworm Games next week. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you, Bookworm Games, for being with us for a year. Basically, you tuned in right after this campaign is when you joined up with us. So it's lovely to have you. With that in mind, let's hop in and talk about Call of the Netherdeep. So it's been a year, so a quick reminder of what happened. In Call of the Netherdeep, we ran for 34 episodes, I believe it was 34, plus our how-tos, and it covered a group of adventurers who met in the small town of Jagao, out in the wastes of Xorhas, which I always will pronounce wrong. From there, they accidentally unearthed a vestige that contained a connection to an ancient warrior known as the Apollyon or Elixion. Elixion guided them, begging them to find a way to release him from his torment. The characters went and investigated. They went to Bazzoxan to try to learn more about this vestige. Bazzoxan, of course, being a cursed city where there was a rift into the abyssal plane. There they were encountered by a member of a cult that was trying to steal the vestige for themselves, and were transported over into the Jewel of Hope, Ank'Harel, where they were forced to kind of go around and kind of acclimatize themselves, learn more about their situation, and strangely discover that they were being drawn to Ank'Harel by fate, it appeared, because beneath it was a drowned city known as Kael Moro. It was there that they realized that there was a link into a place called the Netherdeep, where Elixion was being held hostage. Now, this entire time, your characters had been interacting with another party of adventurers that shall be known as the Rivals henceforth. The Rivals, of course, the BFFs. In our playthrough, yes. So the Rivals were a rival party that was competing with you in Jagao, and they got roped into this entire thing, becoming foils for you and eventual allies. You even fought them in the drowned city, and they did pretty good against you, all things considered. Then down in to the Netherdeep you went, where you realized that this strange new substance that had been flooding the market called ruidium was actually flowing from the Netherdeep and was harnessing the evil and corruption of Ruidus, the Red Moon of Xandria, which if you're watching current Critical Role, you know there's a bunch of crazy shit involving that thing. It is a big plot point, and I'm not going to spoil. And from there, you went in and discovered that this corruption that was spreading out of the Netherdeep was one part the curse of Ruidus and one part Elixion's issues. He has more issues than Time Magazine, and you are here to help him cancel his subscription. You did so, and you managed to rescue him and save him from his torment, where he retired down to Florida and golfs a lot. Because the final image of him in the book, if you succeed, is a real sweet one, and I was going to make it the thumbnail for this episode, but I didn't want any spoilers, but it's just him as an old dude. Just wandering around. It's a little fuzzy because of my camera focus, but it's real lovely. So we're going to jump in. So first off, the structure of this video is going to be, we're going to talk about Chapter 7 and how to run it, and things that we felt in it, as well as a few things from Chapter 6 that I want to touch on that I'm going to remind you of. From there, we are going to jump into questions and overviews of the entire campaign, including things that we wish would have done better, we wish we would have known going in, and strong suggestions for people who are planning to run this. So you'll find things in this video in that order. Hopefully it'll be helpful to you. So first of all, Chapter 7. Chapter 7 begins where you make it to the heart of despair. A quick summary of this episode, or of this chapter, is that you are in the prison of the Apollyon. It is largely a battle. You head inside of the heart. You discover that it is this giant flooded dome vaguely shaped like a beating human heart. And inside there are 3 islands with the respective temples of the gods that have sworn power to Elixion or granted him power through his life. And in the center, a giant heroic statue of Elixion himself. Once you get inside of there, this is the way that it goes. Within the first page of this book, you have spent the entire game going forward with the idea that you need to do something about Elixion. He asks you to help him, and when you get to him, he asks you a simple question. After so long, we could finally speak to one another, and I am overjoyed. You have seen what I have done, what I have become, because you had been going through his memories in the previous section. You, better than anyone, have the clarity of sight to judge me. May I leave? Elixion cannot free himself from his torment. He needs your permission, which is a really interesting narrative and psychological way to look at this. I think the writing is very good here. The point of this is that his words should give you an uneasy feeling. He believes you're the only beings alive that know him well enough to judge him, and he doesn't trust himself. This is where you decide his fate. There are a few options. If the characters grant him his freedom, he gasps in surprise. This is the outcome he wants, but his own self-loathing did not prepare him for this answer, since deep down he knows he's in no condition to leave. He asks them if they're sure of their decision. This is what you did. You initially said yes, and then he goes, "Are you sure?" which grants you an insight check. If the characters choose to free him at this point, proceed with worst ending. The worst ending for this that you guys did not get.
Oof.
Ooh.
So the worst ending, we're going to jump to that real quick. Unleashing devastation. Elixion is granted freedom without regaining compassion. If you take pity on him without healing his heart, this is what happens. The statue of Elixion explodes, spraying debris and black ichor. The prayer sites too explode into rubble as the Apaltheon siphons off the last vestiges of their power. His voice resounds from everywhere as he screams, "Never again will they forget my name!" A titanic mass of oily, slick shadow rushes past you and tears a hole through the edge of the heart of despair. A wave of darkness comes over you. You are left gasping for breath, but that is the least of your worries. Ruin is coming to Xarria. So you've unleashed a demigod that doesn't have a heart.
Worst ending or a new campaign?
Basically, right? So you have to escape from the Netherdeep there. To continue this campaign in the midst of the devastation, you can devise a way to stop this wrathful avatar from raising all of Xarria, which could be the characters receiving blessings from other prime deities to compete against his power, raising an army to face him, and the occult worshippers who flock to him, or a party that is desperate or daring might even seek help from the betrayer gods. That's a cool campaign. Then, so when you go into this from there are 2 ways that you can do this. You can defeat him. You can just kill him. If you kill him in the final fight, he dies. Period. He is defeated instead of being redeemed. You have to escape the Netherdeep. Ruidium stops functioning, and it is the neutral ending. You receive a vision of him. As you kill him, you see him turn his, you see his back turned to them as he receives the killing blow from Grumpsh. And then he's now at peace. You guys actually managed to not kill him and offer him salvation, which got the good ending where the world remembers his sacrifice, and he then basically ages up to an old man and lives out the remainder of his life in peace. It's very sweet, and I love that. The entire point of this fight is that there are numerous stages. It's got 3 massive battle stages where he keeps resetting his legendary actions. It's Final Fantasy is this final fight. It starts off with him
This isn't
as
even his final form.
It's not, because he starts off as this horrible bug monster, then he becomes an angel, then he becomes an old man. And I love that. And I love that you're stripping away this artifice of his suffering. And I think it's cool because you can keep provoking him throughout the fight to upset him and to offer him aid and what you're trying to do is, what's that?
Be like, you need therapy.
Right? You have to help him. And the fun thing about this is every time you try to comfort him, he loses 20 hit points. Period. So every time he says something and you try to speak to him, you have to make a DC 15 persuasion check, which can have advantage if you get one advantage for every one of the memories you went through in the previous chapter that you successfully completed. So every kindness you did to his memory, you gain advantage to comfort him. And the point of it is he's taking that 20 hit points as he's trying to shed what he became. That's really cool. Like, raise your hand if you have dealt with any type of mental illness or have known people with mental illness. This is a fun campaign for that, right? So it's really interesting to go through. It's a good fight. How to make it stressful was one question that kept coming up. How do you make this fight good? I think the fight's really good on its own. He's really tough. You need to make the fight meaningful. The strength of the fight isn't important as much as the characters should have opinions about Elixion, which, as we're going into this, that is the thing I want to hammer home the most. Elixion is an incredibly difficult character for a dungeon master to get right. And I want to know, first of all, I know I did it right. I'm not patting myself on the back about that, but I killed myself over this to get this right. What worked? What made this guy not just have like the Peter Parker hair fringe being like, you just don't understand, you know? Like what? Because he either comes off as super suspicious or super emo if you do it wrong.
Well, I think the fact that all of us, like, I think it was Chris mainly that was like, yes, of course we forgive you. Of course you can go, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was.
And
Yeah.
I was like, no. And so I think the fact that was like, we had both ends of that. I know it was kind of the characters we were playing as well that sort of would have had those opinions basically anyway. But I think the fact that we had this huge range of reactions to the way that he was made it feel like, no, we can't tell if he should be sympathetic or if he's actually screwed up.
Did you find that the memories in the previous chapter, like going through those, gave you sympathy for him, or did it feel like a fetch quest?
Oh no, it gave sympathy. I found.
No, I was
'cause
gonna say, like,
you were showing his past, like, and all the things that he kind of went through, where you're like, oh, this guy saw a lot of shit.
Personally,
And had to make a lot of stuff.
Personally, for me, that actually made like me, the player, more suspicious because his reactions to everything, even like being nice to him, were very. There were a lot of red flags in that. Dorlen, on the other hand, was just like, yeah, you know, like, but I remember like that actually started getting me personally feeling more suspicious of what was going on with how he was doing things. And it was like, nope, that's going right over Dorlen's head.
Nice.
Those memories are what made it seem like he was actually a sad character, not like the emo little butt that you had to deal with or something like that, but like actually sad because you saw like this backstory of being rejected and being hated for nothing that he could control.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it gave more context to it.
Nice. So
That's all.
was there anything in the final fight that you found particularly fun, interesting, anything that really stood out about it? Yeah, I think I know the answer to this though. So the previous section had us going through all of the different parts of the layers of loathing, the layers of this, and the thing that made them, and looking at your faces, I can really tell this is most likely the case. You guys made friends with the rivals. That's not always what happens. And at the end of this, you are being chased by the Elixian the Hunter, which is a golem that keeps regenerating no matter what until you go into the heart. You guys didn't know that it stops when you go into the heart. And I needed a way for you not to have all the rivals there in the final fight. So they decided to stay back and keep fighting this thing so that you could go and be the heroes. And I know that the hook of them outside, for one, put a timer on this. Because how long can they stand against this thing that doesn't die? But also, you had friends right outside the door to reunite with, and then you had to do a big chase where you guys had to run together and escape, and people were helping each other, and it was this it was very epic. And I loved that. I love that. Even though you had Elixian on your side being like, come on, I'm old and awesome now. Let's haul ass to Lollapalooza. You know, it was really cool to do that and to have that kind of working with you. I think it was the best way that we could have handled Elixian the Hunter, by the way. I've gotten a lot of questions about Elixian the Hunter over the years. I hate him. I hate Elixian the Hunter. The golem that keeps coming back to life, like the Terminator. He's so annoying, especially if you're running a stream on the internet where people are watching this for fun. And then every episode you're like, guess who's back? Back again. Golem's back. Bore your players. So use him as a threat. Don't use him as a constant combat encounter. Let the players outsmart him. Let them outrun him. But have him like Michael Myers in the background. Have him just over your car, over the shoulder, right? But what about the final chapters was really good for you guys? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? I know it's been a year. Remember every little detail.
Robin's got her hand up.
Robin.
Yeah. To answer your previous question that you asked us, to get to about the fight with Elixian, I liked the fact that once we realized, I don't like fights where you're like, oh, I'm sympathetic to this bad guy, I still have to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the mechanic of trying to convince him to accept himself, basically, and that doing damage, quote unquote, but being able to talk basically as an encounter. I really like that mechanic because Kaeko as the bard and kind of
you beat a lot of ass during that. You and Xarria, I think, did, actually all of you did. It wasn't just one player, it was everybody got something in, because I remember Zenata even got a really good forgiveness speech in. It was really cool because you expect it from some of the players, right? But it made you really useful as a bard.
This is something that, again, begging you to play another game. So many other games do social combat really, really well. And the fact that Dungeons and Dragons pulled off a element of social combat that gives the players a real incentive to role play, to an actual numbers to do it, was so cool. And I think was the first time in this campaign that really felt like Critical Role, because that's something Critical Role would do, is all the players would be like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing that isn't fighting, but Mercer's going to take it and be like, okay, cool, that's going to do damage, but in a different way, and take him down to whatever. So I feel like, I think, I know me maybe louder than everybody, but everyone kind of felt that this campaign was really harsh for it was going to drive people away from D&D because it was such a harsh campaign that didn't feel like Critical Role unless you're already really good players with a really good DM. But that element, knowing that that was an element of it, of we were actually doing damage by giving speeches, felt the most Critical Role and the most engaging and entry level to a new player. It sucks that it came at the end of the campaign. That's really, really cool, and I really like that.
Absolutely. Robin, what else were you saying about the final fight that was really good for you as a bard and as a player?
it was very dynamic too. I find final bosses with module D&D is very much like a static hit, I change form, hit, I change form kind of thing. Versus this had the different locations, the prior sites, and it really felt like it felt epic in that way that we had to strategize and be conscious of everything, and I felt it felt very dynamic.
Hmm. That's fair. I'm trying to think of the other final bosses of modules that we've ran on the channel. Obviously, Strahd. But
Rhyme.
yeah, Rhyme. You get the kaiju fight in Rhyme if you're doing it right. Do the kaiju fight. It's the only way to go out on that one. Caitlan.
Well, it felt really epic and it was great, but it also felt quite forgiving because at first we were going into it and we were like, I don't really want to fight this guy to the death, but I guess this is what we have to do. And then we started kind of talking, and then we were like, hey, maybe we can just forgive this guy, right? Like make this guy exactly accept himself. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could try healing him. And then it was like, maybe don't do that. And I was like, okay. But but I was like, isn't that quite a grand gesture of forgiveness as well, right? I remember that part quite clearly.
That was good.
But thanks. But it felt like you could go through it in a way that felt true to the characters too, because you're like, oh gosh, this thing's attacking me, I'm gonna attack back. Oh, but hold on, we can talk this out, kind of a thing, instead of like, no, you're locked in. Let's go fight to the death now.
And that's the thing that I actually wanted to mention about it too. Like it took a little bit to start thinking back and remembering some of the things. It's been so long, but it definitely felt like throughout the entire campaign, we very much were a chatty party, and the mechanics weren't there to really necessarily like back that up, but this fight really felt like it did have that. Like we befriended the rivals, they were our BFFs. Like Maggie for life. Like
Maggie for life.
Oh, Maggie, that sweet summer child. But Maggie is beautiful. But being able to like actually have something in place to do that, like it felt fitting, like how that all happened and how we went about it, and it felt really good to go through that fight. And with D&D, as I was saying earlier, like it doesn't normally have like mechanics for that, so like that kind of going through, like, and I remember doing some of the checks and whatnot, and like seeing people do that, and I wasn't sure if that was, I remember thinking I wasn't sure if that was actually something that was in the game, or if that was something that you had put in based on how we had been playing the game.
It's actually written in. It's something that I probably would have put in, but it's actually in the game. And I think that's one of the strengths of this adventure module is, and it's what Christa was saying earlier, that the end of this feels like Critical Role, that there's that D&D, but there is that focus on character. And if you're running this, I gotta say, we run a lot of modules on Dork Tales. If you haven't watched them, go watch them. But this is the hardest one to run correctly because there are so many moving pieces. And I'm not saying this to scare off a new dungeon master or someone who might be, this is a module for theater kids. This and Wild Beyond the Witchlight are modules where you need a dungeon master, but you also need a player group that is really interested in playing characters less than rolling dice.
You need a DM that can run 5 in NPCs distinctly.
Accurate.
And like Kelly's skill, being able to switch his voices and us know exactly who's talking to, like that's not something a dungeon master needs to have, but boy did it help us.
Yeah.
Now I do wonder if Kelly had not played them so expertly, mained rivals, because we wouldn't have cared about them. They just would have been dicks in our way. So if you have a DM that doesn't run them very well, they might be more likely to remain rivals because they're just these assholes that seem to keep getting in your way. Whereas like Kelly humanized them.
There's a lot of stuff to work with inside of
you.
You
had Maggie give Kaeko a feather and put it in her hair. How could I not love Maggie?
they are written really well as story seeds. Like, they're really good. So like, just run with it. Make them your own. Voices are something that's really intimidating for a lot of people. If you're bad with voices and you are running at a table in particular, don't worry about it. Worry about speech speed is something that you can control. Anybody can control how fast they talk. Look at the way that Chris played Dorlen, and then look at the way that, you know, anybody else plays any other character.
Dorlen and Reynald.
Exactly. Maggie is going to talk really slowly. Dermot's going to talk really quietly. Io is literally just Korra from, the Legend of Korra, and so on. But if you're bad with voices, print out a picture of each of them from the book or from the internet and hold it up when you're talking as them. It makes your life way easier, and the players have a visual representation if you're suddenly like, "Hi, gang, let's go out and save the city. He-Man, never heard of him." Yes, I have a Prince Adam on my desk. But like it just little cues like that can really help. So don't be intimidated by this. The other thing that I would really strongly suggest if you're running the rivals, and I've talked about this multiple times, if you are running them in combat and they are allies, assign them to each player to run for you. You've got this book has tons of monsters. You're going to be fighting tons of monsters. You're going to be dealing with people like Zenata in your party who have like 92 attacks per round and doesn't even have to be in the same postal code to use them, and there's a lot going on. So if you can trust your players and the rivals are friendly or at least working together, give them to a player. And I would also suggest that you mix it up every time, like we did, because I randomly assigned them every time so that people would get to play with different abilities and would, get to learn that Xarria is an absolute monster in combat with that ability. And everybody got to ride Xarria at least once, phrasing. But also, it was a little minor thing about the rivals. It was pointed out to me in a YouTube comment. Somebody, I forget the name of the person, said, "Does it bother anybody else that Kelly decided that what's his name? Wastewalker. Irvin. That Irvin's original name was Den?" And the reason was I accidentally misread the book. I'm gonna own up on this, because it says that he was a hobgoblin from Den something or other is the name of his home. They never actually mentioned what his original name is, and I misread it when I was skimming. I'm like, "That's right, you can call me Den." So his real name is Dennis now, and he just goes by Den, and he's from a den, but his name is Dennis now. So
Den.
that's official.
Well, clearly Dennis in Hobgoblin is of the den. So
Of the den.
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. So he's Dennis. That's fine. He's the menace.
Pet name for him is Den.
Den
Den.
is Den.
I told you.
That's beautiful. Okay, so
He set up a listening device.
No, it's kind of hard not to
The
hear.
research. Oh, okay.
it's right next to the Kaeko box.
It records
Oh my
everything.
gosh, that freaking remix.
That remix
my
is still on our
God.
podcast.
Oh,
So
good.
y'all
I
can.
forgot about that.
Oh my
So
God.
proud of
That's
him.
beautiful.
Beautiful.
so-
I forgot
That's
about
the
that.
best thing ever.
All right, let's start leaning into some of these questions.
Okay, funny
Oh, what?
story.
What?
For
What?
some reason, Kaiko's introduction, for the introduction TikToks we did, Kaiko's recorded introduction and the thank you for calling the Netherdeep is all in my Apple Music for some reason.
Oh my god.
And so I was shuffling my library, and all of a sudden, "Hello, I'm Kaeko Skaar." And I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Oh wow,
That's-
Lord Briarwood's here. Fuck.
Oh no, not Lord Briarwood. We have a Lord Briarwood in the chat.
Oh.
All right. Oh, by the way, Critical Role Season 3 finally dropped on or pardon me, The Legend of Vox Machina.
Vox Machina.
Oh
The
yeah,
Legend
we
of
haven't
Pox
watched it yet.
Machina.
It's so good. I've watched 9 episodes of it already.
Nice.
Holy
All right.
there's
Let's go to some
9.
questions. So starting off, we'll come back to some stuff, but Mikey asks for Kelly, was Netherdeep the module where you cut the most out due to time, useless content? No. Should I elaborate? Like, I forget which one I cut the most out of. The module that shall not be named definitely is one of them. I'd say, honestly, out of the modules we've run, the one that I'm cutting the most out of is Vecna. I am rewriting an entire chapter of Vecna Eve of Ruin because it doesn't make any sense. They have an entire chapter, and I'll just tell you this. I'm going to put it on Dungeon Masters Guild if you guys want to buy it. But there's a chapter set in Dragonlance that's all about werewolves. Yeah, it's all about werewolves. And I can't remember a single...
Werewolves and Dragonlance.
Yeah, it doesn't really track, right? So I'm rewriting it so that it's about like the towers of magic or something like that. And also, there is not a single guest appearance in it. Out of everything. And I'm sorry, if you're running Vecna Eve of Ruin and you're not having big NPCs from each location show up, why are you running it? It's supposed to be like the Infinity War crossover of, yeah, I'm just annoyed. I'm annoyed. So no, it's not Netherdeep. Netherdeep is the one where if I had my druthers, if I was running it again, I would, and this is advice I'd give to anybody, I would shuffle the chapters. I would start them in Ank'Harel and have them go to Jigao as part of a mission or something like that. And I would shuffle it because the beginning is very sandbox, and the way it is, it's very hurry up and slow down. You know, it's like in Disneyland where you're running to get in line at another ride. So you're running to wait for an hour and a half. You know, like it's very, I don't know. It's annoying to me. For Robin, how did you like playing the Bard subclass you chose? And do you regret anything about multiclassing into Barbarian?
I loved the Maestro subclass. That was a homebrew by Matt Mercer, I think, did that initially.
It's definitely Critical Role.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it. I think the conducting and having the like different arias of suspense and things like that, I really liked that for a bard class, and I really liked it being like playing a character that basically sees the combat and a little bit of fourth wall breaking, hearing music in the combat. It's almost like if you've seen maybe Doctor Who saw it and copied me because I did it first. But the latest season of Doctor Who, the first or second episode with
the Maestro.
With the Maestro and the Doctor, almost acts like they hear the score of the TV show. And I really liked that as a band kid and as a theater kid and doing music since grade 6 growing up. I really liked being able to put that into a character that's like, I hear what Kelly's playing on Roll20 right now, basically. Like, that's the kind of thing that this character hears, is that they hear the symphony, they hear the clashing of the swords, being able to kind of inspire in that, and that way they're able to kind of tactically analyze the battlefield. I really like the end. I don't know. I'm unsure. I think I don't know if multiclassing into Barbarian was the best thing for like mechanics wise, but I thought it fit Kaeko's character a lot better. Her raging when she's like, fuck it, I don't want to listen to music. I'm just gonna rage, and spins her guitar into an axe and just starts slashing at people. So I don't regret anything. I really like that for her, and she was one of my top characters for sure. I love her.
Oh, what's up, Christa?
I was just going to add on to that. I thought in a campaign that was all about like reaching back into your roots and accepting that even though it hurt, there are aspects of that made you who you are. Kaeko going back and taking those couple levels of barbarian, like reaching back into the strength of her, what was a painful childhood, and using that, I, as a character arc, I fucking loved. So like, yeah.
Yeah. And that's, once again, that's the best part of Critical Role, is when they do that, because regardless of whether or not you're a Critical Role fan or not, because I know some of the players here, I'm not going to name names, have never watched an episode of Critical Role. But that is what people like about it, is when those backgrounds get really used. And it's any dungeon master can do that. Bring in the things from your character's background, give them that emotionality. You'll really love it. And that's what works, and that's what made that very unique. For Christine, beyond coming into the campaign partway through, how was playing a character tied to the very deep and meaningful portion of the Kryn faith with consecration and reincarnation? It's kind of a toughie.
The religious part meant nothing to me whatsoever. It was just a cool NPC background. It was a fun thing to do to fuck with the rest of them. Was what it was. I was looking forward to the lore drop when they would go, "What?" type thing, and that was the only reason for it. We needed a reason to bring me in, and that was something that Kelly offered as an option, because I couldn't start the campaign at the beginning, because I'd originally been considering it, but we just didn't have the time. I was in too many things.
What's that like?
So it was very interesting playing that character. I didn't really know enough of the information very well. And it took a while to get to it, so I kind of did forget about some of it sometimes.
But that was in character, because your character doesn't have to remember either.
Exactly. It was interesting though, playing a character that came in later, because it was like kind of hard to meld a little bit into the party vibe. Because you guys had all that experience beforehand, and the rivals meant like nothing to me before we met them the next time. So that was definitely interesting. But yeah, I was
really
kind of
liked that.
Kind of came in as a muscle.
I really liked how you played that, like coming into the party and like we're like, oh yeah, they're our friends, blah 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 blah, and you're just kind of like, the fuck, like, like they're being assholes. What the hell, like, and like that vibe like actually came across really well, and I thought was quite rational and made a lot of sense, and I thought you handled that well.
Good. But yeah, no, it was fun waiting for that reveal to happen. Especially since like with the way the reincarnation works and whatnot, while you're that person, you're also distinct. So you can have very different opinions and thoughts on what they'd done or how their life worked and whatnot. So it wouldn't have happened if I'd started from the beginning. That probably wouldn't have been there, because that would have been a very weird thing to interact with that NPC. And I think it mainly came up because that NPC became so valuable to you guys. And so intrinsic, like a lot of Kelly's main NPCs do. So that was why that got picked, because it was like, hey, do you want to do a thing where they're all going to shit themselves over it? It's like, yes, please. I would like to be involved in shenanigans.
Christine loves being in the back end when things get weird.
It was great. For all that I wasn't there last night for game, I got to help.
It's true. All right. Question for Caitlan. How is it being a cleric of the Raven Queen while knowing all of this lore that's coming out in the campaigns and Legend of Vox Machina?
So I actually, strangely enough, I have been thinking about this a little bit. It was one of those like, oh yeah, going back to Netherdeep kind of shower thoughts. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know if she, like, knowing now all these things, because at first I was like, I want to be a blood cleric. I guess it's the Raven Queen. Let's go. And so I was looking up all these designs for Raven Queen clerics, and they were all gothy, emo, and I was like, I'm going to do something different. And now I kind of see why, kind of because she like chooses you. She kind of like chooses kind of a thing, but I don't regret doing what I did. And I also still don't really 100% know, because I watched the show up until season 2, and then I haven't started it again, so I don't know if there's anything tying in. Then there probably is. And I actually haven't really watched Critical Role itself very much at all. I tried to start from the beginning, and I'm still going through. I was like started it kind of when I was on mat leave, but then I like stopped because I had a child. But yeah, where am I going with this? I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the choice that I made, and I think it was really fun.
Chris, how stressful / fun was it playing a character with low wisdom?
It was phenomenal. It was absolutely beautiful and fantastic. It was incredible.
Right.
I
You were
would-
low whiz, I was low int. We were super smart.
Yeah, and you know, Kaeko was the leader, right? Because like she talks a lot. She's the one who's large and in charge. Keiko's the leader. But it was absolutely it was a lot of fun, and you know, it was great. Like it took a little bit to kind of get used to the like, I know this is a really bad idea, like and because you know you've been playing, I've been playing D&D most of my life, and it's there's certain things that you know just are like cliche, like metagame kind of knowledge. You just kind of know like, oh, grabbing the thing is a bad idea. You never grab the thing, and just playing somebody, but there's so many things that like happen when you do that, and it might not always necessarily be fun for everyone else sometimes. And I tried
huge
to
props to you, Chris, on that. Similar like how I played like with me doing Riz, Dorlen and Riz could have both been campaign ruiners for the other people, and you played Dorlen and gave me a lot of inspiration for when we did Dragonlance of how you played Dorlen.
Thank
you. Do you guys
you played
know
him very well.
It's a masterclass in it's what my character would do without ruining a game. Like if you are a player that is very much like, well, it's what my character would do, watch this fucking campaign and watch Chris be like, this is what I'm going to do.
You guys are gonna make me cry. Stop. Thank you.
It's incredible because it's so like you gave the space to be like, I'm gonna do this stupid ass thing, but you gave the rest of the players the opportunity to stop you, to be like, okay, no, this is gonna ruin everything. A character is going to stop you, and you allowed yourself to be stopped. Whereas like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm doing this without telling anybody, and they're like writing notes to DM what they're going to do. No, it's like yours was perfect. It never ruined anything.
You were Tony Hawking, like you were like grinding the rail between annoying motherfucker and fun the entire time, and you never tipped over. It was very like sometimes I was like, and then you just like you just did a kickflip or whatever Tony Hawk does. Not get recognized on airlines.
Ollie,
I don't know.
Ollie, I don't know.
An Ollie? Ollie Oxford.
It was a lot of fun though. Like, and knowing that like, you know, I'm opening the character up for getting hurt because of these stupid decisions, but being like, no, you know what, he's just so fascinated by everything. And it was a lot of fun.
Someone left a comment on YouTube about Dorlen. I think it was the person who was asking, who mentioned Dennis, I should say, and said, why doesn't Dorlen just leave his armor on? Style. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Like, I mean, you don't want to be like wandering around like that. I mean, Dorlen was a classy looking gentleman. Like he's a
handsome man. He's a handsome man. All right, for Christa, old man character win.
When there's another campaign, when I'm allowed to play a bard, I'll do an old man bard. That'll be the thing I do
Christa,
next.
when you're done with school, I will throw you in a homebrew campaign so you don't have to play any more damn modules, okay?
Perfect. I love it.
Because here's the thing. You can watch Christa get, like, the longer a campaign goes, with the exception of Netherdeep, actually. Netherdeep was pretty good for the most part. But in, like, Fandelver, you can watch her get, like, lemon face the longer she has to deal with the lore in the book. Like, just...
So Kelly, you know
I survived. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have the perfect campaign that would make so much fun if Christa played an old man character in one of your homebrew things that you're talking about that I may or may not be in. I may help produce. That one, Chris would be perfect.
I don't know which one you're talking about, but let me know privately.
I survived Netherdeep as sort of Christine and Caitlan have both sort of said of like there's all this deep lore and they you sort of try to play into it to like for the fan service and to sort of commit to the bit. I went into this campaign going, I know nothing about Critical Role. I have no interest in knowing anything about Critical Role. How do I do this? Girl that grew up in the swamp. Done and done. She doesn't know about gods. She doesn't know about city history. She doesn't know shit about shit. And so it was the perfect choice. And so you survive because you're like, yeah, you can just putter along. Da da da.
See, that's the thing I find is that it's so hard sometimes because, like, with D&D, most of their worlds, I kind of ambiently know a bit about it just from like exposure over time. But I didn't watch Critical Role either, really. Like, we watched like 1 or 2 episodes here or there, and that's about it. And then we watched a bit of Vox Machina, but that was it. So, like, I didn't know shit about all these different names either. And I was like,
and then
am I
as the
supposed to
person
know
that
who these people are?
has listened to campaign 1, campaign 2, part of campaign 3, and a lot of the Exandria Unlimited Calicons was like looking to me as like, Robin, what does this mean? I'm like,
How do I pronounce
Trying to help
Jorhas? Zorhas?
Oh my God.
Jorhas?
Jorhas. Jor.
I'll
Sorry,
kick
Wilden?
your ass.
Wildemount.
Yeah.
Wildemount?
Wildemount. This is why everything on Elos is really easy to pronounce unless it's not. I love it. I love it. Hey, follow our homebrew games. They're even better than this. All right, Ash, a Sean Wind song. I was going to say Ash Wind song, but it's a Sean Wind song. Whose character, not your own, would you have liked to have played?
Zenata. Zenata was actually very similar to my initial pitch for a concept to the character, and we weren't sure if it would fit because we were making the characters before the book came out, so didn't know if a consecrated person as a orc would work and whatnot. And so there were definitely very different personalities, but it was definitely something that like I really wanted to go for. I'm really glad it didn't go that way. I think this was beautiful the way it worked out, but I definitely Zenata.
Okay. That popcorn's over to Christine. Christine, who would you play?
Honestly, I kind of adore Kaeko.
That's true. Kaeko is hot mama.
But also just like the ability, like I think up until Robin did that, I was kind of very focused on like the typical barbarian type vibe. And it never really occurred to me to have that well spoken, that well dressed, that well like reactioning type bard character be a barbarian. So that was very cool.
And meanwhile,
And I do like that idea, and I do like thinking about weird ass barbarian characters now.
and you're also almost kind of playing like Dorlen's cousin in Vecna. Rosie and Dorlen. There's been a call, by the way, to put Rosie, Dorlen, Riz, and
Thea.
in a game
And a
together.
deck of many things.
And the deck of many
Oh my
things.
god, it's just in a room.
Charity game.
So literally charity game, just those in a room.
Well, because it was specifically the artificers for sure.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get stuck in a game together. But I feel like if it's that lineup with Riz as well, what would be better is Win.
How are you going to play 2 characters?
I mean, it's practice
Fair.
for when
No,
you're
like
DMing.
over.
not Rosie, but put Win in. If like if it's not an artificer's game and just the chaos gremlins, put Win
okay.
in.
That's fair.
That's very true.
Because Win
Yes,
caused
yes,
more
no,
shit than
100%.
Rosie does. Rosie just fucks off about
Okay,
her
but
own
then I would want to
interests.
put Kaeko in a game with Ferex and just who else could we put in there? Because we'd have the giant titty committee.
Xarria.
Mm.
Xarria did
Xarria.
have Xarria.
I was going to say, So go throwing down. I would have actually I would like to play Xarria as a character. Like if I couldn't play Kaeko, I really liked Xarria as a character. I think I love the kind of I really liked how Caitlan played this, like, yeah, the Raven Queen is supposed to be all like super goth, and then there's just Xarria, who's like kind of a ball of sunshine, but also kind of super deadly and scary.
2 balls of sunshine,
Like,
according to
Like,
Chris right there.
wounds right on
Yeah.
your face.
yeah. So I
That's
really
kinda hot.
I liked Xarria. So I would definitely would play Xarria if I was
When Caitlan and I switched costumes for and took those pictures that are in the Discord somewhere.
They're in the Discord. Join the Discord.
So and I did the full body paint and Xarria. I felt fucking fabulous. Like it
Right?
was. I was like, whoa, damn. It was good.
You two totally switch attitudes, which was great. It was so
The costume
fantastic.
does that. So
it does.
Caitlan,
Put the costume on.
Caitlin, who would you play?
I'm actually so torn. I'm so torn because Dorlen, when I put the costume on, oh man, the spirit of the crazy artificer the spirit of Dorlen just flowed through me. Like you could just feel it, right? The manic energy. I just don't know. He was so high energy. I don't know if I could keep it up the whole campaign.
I didn't think I could, but it was absolutely the costume. Like as soon as I put that beautiful red coat that Christa made on, like it was just like, all right, I got this. I'd be like, oh fuck, I don't know if I have the energy for this. Okay, and just be like, all right, let's go.
But also Sabina.
You love your
good.
angst.
I do.
Oh.
Yeah. And just still just being a little like flowers and have this little marsh.
Swamp mom.
Swamp mom.
So good.
That's
frog in the marsh. And, oh yeah, no, Sabina. Yeah. So when you first asked the question, Sabina was my first thought, and then I was like, oh, but I did dress up as Dorlen, and that was a moment.
It's infectious.
It really is.
I think that's I personally, my own headcanon is that's where the seeds of Enthea were blossomed when you put on Dorlen's costume.
Perfect. And finally, Christa.
So I guess I don't know. I loved Sabina so much that I'm like I enjoyed her so much.
So what,
my
Maggie?
2 favorite characters I've yeah, exactly. Ironically, the 2 characters I played in my entire career of D&D that have been my absolute favorite are very quiet, reserved, like shy people, which is, if you know me in person, is wild. But it's
Wait, who's the other one?
fun to do that. Not someone I've played on stream. It was a wizard I played in Pathfinder who was named Snicket Wanderlust, and she's my favorite character I've ever played in my entire career. And one day I really hope to bring her to stream because she's just the greatest, and I love her very, very much. And a lot of Sabina had Snicket's life gone different. Sabina is kind of the character I think she would have been, so I love her very, very much. But I am a person who never choose. I'm always like, you guys pick what you want to play. I'll play whatever's left. I had desperately wanted to play a bard for 2 games, and people kept picking bards ahead of me. And I was like, okay, this is the one. I'm going to play a bard. And as I was typing it, Robin was like, I'm going to play a bard. And I was like, okay. And then I went to type, okay, I think I'm going to do Artificer then. And Chris put, I'm going to do Artificer. And I was like, fuck my life.
And you were like, I'm going to do a cleric.
Well, cleric is normally what I do. Like, I do love playing clerics. I love playing cleric.
And then you're like, I'm going to be the DM. And then
exactly. I'm gonna run the fucking game then. No, and then I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna do ranger because I've never done a ranger before, so I went with that. But I loved Kaeko and I loved Dorlen, and I don't think I would have done them justice. But I loved both of them, and I did want to do a bard and do an artificer, but I wouldn't have done them as well as Robin and Chris did. So
don't worry, you will in the next one.
I'll lend you the code.
Yeah, I gotta play my old man. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I do love that code.
Bartificer, go.
Bartificer, go. All right, question from Kiyama. It is, how was it playing in Xandria? It was fine.
it's an interesting world. I still don't know a huge amount of it. I have enjoyed some of the shows and everything, but playing the game did definitely increase my interest in the world. It's very rich. It's very different in some aspects from some of the other games. Like, it's familiar but different, and it's always really fun, I think, looking at things from like just a different perspective and having a different take on some things that, as I said, like, been playing D&D since forever, and like being like, oh, this is a new world, or like, and it's nice having those like that like that knowledge not be accurate that you would have necessarily had with like Forgotten Realms or Dragonlance or anything like that. So it definitely increased my interest in the world.
Nice. I found that running it was a little stressful. And I think performing it live is a little stressful because the Critical Role fandom is so passionate about Critical Role that it feels like, for example, like the Den thing. Like, damn, I messed up this tiny thing and I'm going to get comments about it. So you know that you're going to be critiqued for how you are portraying someone else's world. Because if you're running a game that's set in the Forgotten Realms, there's a lot less Forgotten Realms. I mean, there's tons of Forgotten Realms media, but there's so much from so many different creative sources that, you know, there's some interpretation. Whereas the people who have run in Xandria at this point are Matthew Mercer, Brennan Lee Mulligan, who else? Abria has ran in it. I think it's just the three of them, right? Who have ran. I'm probably missing somebody, but it's like
Kelly
three
Clark
different.
and all.
Oh yeah, that
people
guy.
That got
That guy's
to
a
sit
dick.
in a room together and ask stuff.
Well, and like Matt Mercer gave Matthew gave Brennan Lee Mulligan like this giant binder of lore. Like, I don't even have that for my own homebrew world. I've got like 1,000 spreadsheets, but the rest is in the ADHD index up here. You know? So
Okay, just an FYI, I've been scrolling the past ever since they mentioned the costume swap. I scrolled all the way through Discord in the costumes things. I've replied to all of the things now. So if you go to the Discord, go to costumes and whatever it's called, costuming
That's what
makeup.
that beeping was.
The most recent comments are will link up to the photos that Caitlan and Blogg took of them swapping costumes. So if people want to see it, I have done the work and scrolled all the way up.
I was gonna say it
to
was a
October
while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, October 6/22. That yep. 6/21/22. So 2 years ago.
rapid fire questions from Random Equinox. Number one, what was your favorite part of Call of the Netherdeep? The module, your character, etc. What was the bam moment of the campaign?
The BAM moment or the like
What was
favorite
your favorite part?
moment? I like the rivals. I like
Rivals?
their party and the rivals. Like that was great.
Yeah, I loved the party interaction. It was kind of nice to start the campaign knowing each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice just be like, no, we can just be friends and just have a backstory. I love referencing a backstory that you've never seen. I'm a fan.
Oh yeah, like that time in Budapest, Christa. That time in Budapest is
100%.
like the agreed on. Don't show what happened there until very late campaign if you do that trick. And then run it as a backstory scene. Don't actually just tell them what happened. Run it as a side episode. Caitlin,
really
Chris.
I really
Christine.
liked the memory, for lack of a better term currently, the memory dungeon, where we were just going through and kind of resolving some of Alexian's trauma, or not resolving it. But I think we did pretty well for the most part.
I think you did.
I thought that was really cool. I loved that.
Nice.
But also, yeah, the party and the interactions. And I always just think about how we interacted with the rivals and, you know, weren't really rivals. And
Friendly rivals.
Little thing with
Dermot?
Dermot.
Us smalls got to stick together.
Right.
But I think one of the moments that I thought was like really sticks out to me about Netherdeep was the end of Bazazan, and when we got into Ankarel, and then what happened with the Valis. And like just
All right, who knew Valis was going to die from the moment he showed up on screen?
You doing a daddy character? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Dude,
that was
I have something about Valis I want to talk about after this question, but yeah, I really liked Bazzoxan. I liked a lot of it. I liked how it's rough. It is a really rough section of the game to run because you guys can die a lot. Like it's definitely watching the writers and the vibe going back to more like D&D like second or third ed, where it's like, oh shit, you're in trouble. Like you're outgunned. And there's nowhere to rest really inside this place where you're not going to get overran. It's really interesting to go back, but it's a little iffy for new players, so be careful if you're running it. Christine, did you have anything you want to toss in? You did come in kind of late.
Not really, because like I feel like I came in only at that chunk of where all of a sudden you're doing all the fetch questing to pick which group you're going to be, and then we were kind of into it. And I don't really feel like any of that was a favorite for me per se. Like I'd say honestly playing with a group and like all of the little NPCs you brought in that you created were kind of more the favorite thing versus like anything about the game itself in that last chunk.
Provolone.
Oh my God,
On that note though, I did find it very interesting how few NPCs I had to invent. For a lot of other modules, I end up creating tons of other NPCs. In this one, there are so many provided in like Ank'Harel and all of these side areas that you just have a personality to play with. You have to come up with like a personality and like speech patterns and stuff. But the characters are there. It's very well populated. Very well populated with a very diverse cast where you're not just meeting the same bartender a ton of times. It's really cool.
Yeah.
One thing I want to add, kind of going on to the thing of like, what was your favorite thing? Kind of what like very and kind of actually goes with the playing in Xandria, playing with someone's world. We had a very cool thing where council member Larouk used a couple of our NPCs in their Netherdeep campaign and inspired them to run Call of the Netherdeep. Like I would get updates from Larouk about what Kaeko did. I think it's very cute that my character ended up as an NPC in someone else's game, and like
well, because like a couple of people, Larouk and one other person used all of your characters, including Zenata, as the rivals in their game.
Yep.
Completely.
That was like super like oh wow, like that's super flattering.
So like very similar to like running in Xandria, as in like I've listened to Critical Role and now I'm in their world. It was very cool as part of their thing. It's very cool.
That is really cool.
Hearing from Larouk about like what happened, and like there was actually like a moment where Larouk contacted me and was just like, oh, the players, they effed up real bad. And just to paraphrase, and it's just like, I think, how would you feel if I maybe killed off Dorlen as like an impact to like the other players because of something that they messed up, and that he was the one that died that like caused a whole bunch of shit to happen. I was like, oh my god, that's terrible. I love it. Do it. Like,
yeah, I got that message too.
I know, it was so good. I was like,
well, and there was a lot of romancing too. Like in his party, did somebody romance Kate? I think somebody had like a 3-way with Kaeko in that campaign.
Yeah, I think so. I think. And I think
someone tried to romance Xarria as well. I forget.
Tried.
Sorry. May I? Speaking of favorite things, I think the prudishness that was so combated by everyone else was one of the funnest things to play. Because I love playing a prudish character or an playing an oblivious character is very fun, and then playing a prudish character that like is aware of what's going on but is shutting it out is also very fun. And the fact that everyone else, like Dorlen doing it subconsciously and making comments without being like Dorlen playing the oblivious and to Sabina's very prudish, and then everyone else like Zenata and Kaeko and Xarria sort of like, well,
Christa.
Xarria wasn't teasing her much about it as much as everyone else, but it was fun.
How difficult was it for you to play something so opposite of you?
What are you trying to say, Kelly?
You are hornier than a mountain goat.
It was very fun. It was very, very good. It came, I find, like, if you're gonna play someone who's very, very young, you kind of, I think a lot of people, I think it's one of the problems with people that try to play like teenagers in D&D, and then they try to, like, they continue to play them like adults, and I'm like, no, bad. Don't do that thing. Play them, if they're gonna play them as like kids, which I was kind of playing her as.
Yeah.
It was part of the thing of, like, she grew up with very amorous parents, and so her gut reaction to that is, ew, gross, mom and dad. Like, that's that. And then she didn't move past that. And so it kind of stuck with her. But it was a lot of fun to, I love, it's one of my favorite jokes to make, is being like, ooh, gross, because I'm not an ooh, gross kind of person. I'm very much like, don't yuck people's yums. I'm never gonna like tell you that you shouldn't do something. But it was very fun kind of playing this character of like, I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna like tell you not to, but just not around me. Let me go. I need to leave. I don't want to be in this situation.
I need an adult. You are an adult. I'm barely an adult.
I'm not an adult.
I'm half the size of an adult. All right, next question. If you could, oh, pardon me. What was the most surprising development of your character in Call of the Netherdeep? I died, but I knew it was coming.
Surprising for me or surprising for everybody else?
Yes.
Because I wasn't surprised. Well, okay. It surprised me how, like, kind of endearing Dorlen ended up by the end, because Zenata was absolutely not happy with the whole buddy system bullshit at the beginning.
Buddy system works. It gets results.
Buddy system works.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't expect Sabina to be so angry. I think she came from a place of being afraid and was like very scared of things. And I kind of expected her to, like, my thought was that she would become, you know, she would grow up, right? She'd become a little bit more into the world and understanding. But that, like, I think because I was playing her so young, it's so easily shifted into that teen, I'm angry at the world and I don't know how to fix it. And so all you want to do is like there were a number of times, like, Kelly and I had conversations of like, I don't know how to continue in this campaign because I'm like, Sabina is so mad at the world, and like this whole let's save this world, she doesn't see a reason to, like, let it die. And she was just, I just found this deep-seated like hatred of the world in her, and it was so hard to like be a hero. And when that was kind of all she wanted to be this storybook hero, because that's the stories her parents told her, and she wanted to find that in herself, and all she found was dismissiveness and like, well, the world doesn't want to be saved, so why should I?
And that was one of the things that was really fun to bring in, is the more showing Alexian and be like, here's this hero, look how they treated him. He was a storybook hero, right? And I think that that's one of the things where going Warlock, having those scenes where you found that connection, really kind of guided her back to the path. Because you and I had some long talks about how to keep Sabina in the campaign. Like we talked for a few hours about it on several occasions.
Yeah, because I just couldn't, I was like trying to find it and trying to be like, okay, what scene has to happen? Like, what connection, who does she have to connect with? Her connection with Zenata really helped, I think, because seeing someone who was outwardly so like, I'm not a fucking hero, and seeing, like, finding that connection with her of like, oh, okay, I can be a good person and I can do good in the world without having to be a hero. And maybe that's the better route to go, and being like, yeah, you know what, sometimes you just kind of have to be like hard about it and just do the thing that needs to get done. And I think that helped.
I also want to say real quick that I think one of the things that also might surprise Christine is whenever we talk about Netherdeep, Christine always really brushes it off and is like, yeah, I was in it, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. But listening to people talk throughout this rap session, I don't think you realize how big of an impact you had. I think that you were far more important, and the Zenata was far more important than you realize or give credit to. So that is something I just want to applaud for you real quick, because that was a hard thing to come into, and you made a huge damn mark. So, you know,
I
feel
would,
good
I would
about
totally agree with that.
It was
We're gonna make her cry.
We had really strong ties with each other, and having like walking into that, I feel like am I totally janking out right now?
A little
My
bit.
Your
video
audio's
is
coming through. Your video's not doing
well,
great.
That's not working.
We're having an atmospheric storm
Oh, is
in
it?
Canada.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
fine then. We sure are. My lights have been flickering. Yeah, we were a really tight group, and that's really hard to come into, especially when you're trying to like be on stream and be a big part of that. And I think that was the perfect character that came in, because you could have just been exactly like Valis, but the character that you brought in was like the perfect foil to Dorlen. And which was what we needed
In many ways, color, height, the whole lot.
Absolutely.
It's really true.
And then like the perfect balance to Kaeko's kind of more boisterousness. You had that like real balance to it. And having like being that person that Sabina could kind of look up to, because like she looked up to I think everyone else in the group, like
Except for Dorlen, 'cause
very
she's pretty
much
short.
like, this is true, looked directly at Dorlen, but looked at Xarria and like her care, and like the way that she also had that sort of effect of like, she's this darker character, but she's still doing good in the world. Like, yeah, she's a blood cleric, but she's using it for good, and like she's someone that people could look at as evil but be like, oh no, like she's this really good, wholesome, amazing person. And so I think that was someone Sabina had really looked at, but then couldn't follow her down that road of being like, no, she actually genuinely loves the world and like thinks the world is worth saving. And that was a road Sabina couldn't go down. And so having Xarria come in to sort of have that, you know, be that good person with a hard exterior, to sort of balance that out and have that counterpoint to Xarria, of it just was this, yeah, for me that felt really, really good, and you really rounded out that party.
Mm-hmm. We needed a hard ass that was like sensible. And it was great to see. Robin, what was your most surprising development besides what we know happened in your Strixhaven episode?
It's true. Actually kind of going on that, what surprised me was Kaeko getting scared. When she almost died, that I forget which episode it was, but in a fight Kaeko almost died, and I didn't expect her to suddenly worry about like the mundane like home that she wanted, and I didn't realize that was that significant of a part about her, like her and Bodhi and the life that she wanted to have with him after this campaign. I was always like, oh yeah, that's just it's a plot point, it's a good NPC, we have the shops, blah blah blah. She has this undercurrent of like with the NPC, and I didn't realize that when she almost died, it hurt her so much and it scared her that she kind of backed off a little bit and kind of got a little more sensible, and realizing that she wanted to protect everyone and make it out alive. Like suddenly it wasn't, oh yeah, this is one last adventure, we're saving the world. It's I can't give up my world for this world if I have to. And it kind of was an interesting aspect that I didn't see coming from Kaeko, that really surprised me, and I really liked it because it was like, oh, an actual like human response of what people would kind of expect from heroes, because when we make D&D characters, we make them to be kind of idealized superhero versions of ourselves that we want to see, and having a very realistic like part of that come into the character was like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
It's really interesting when the characters are willing to leave. You know?
Something I want to touch on before we get too far off, with Zenata coming into the party, we would not have succeeded without Zenata. Like, easy, hands down. We absolutely would not have been able to, and it's her coming into the party was like a fantastic, like somebody touched on it earlier, like counterbalance to like some of the different personalities, and it was a lot of fun. Somebody said, a foil, like playing off Zenata a little bit, and I had a fantastic time interacting with you in the game as Dorlen and having that there. So I just wanted to I know we kind of went off a little bit, but I just wanted to get back to that and make sure brought that up.
Perfect. So who has not answered the most surprising development for character? Anybody want to jump on that?
Sure. One of mine, I guess, started at the beginning, but I didn't really see it happening. And then at the end, when we were like, well, who was the real leader of the group? And I remember that some people chimed in strongly that they thought Xarria was. And I guess at first I was like, oh yeah, well, we've got the vestige, but like, who's gonna wear it? And then it was like, well, I guess I'm the cleric. So she ended up wearing it most of the time because she had that religious kind of aspect to her. But that was a surprising turn for me. I was like, I had never really pictured her that way, but I suppose that, you know, I too much into her mind, and she never found herself as to be really a leader. She was just going to be that like little side character, be like, oh, I'll heal you, oh, I'll hurt you, oh, I'll heal you, let's manipulate the blood powers, kind of a thing. So that was interesting.
She was definitely a major character. She wasn't like a side character at all. She was great.
Thanks.
I feel like anytime there was a decision, we all kind of went, and we just like,
look, who's the reasonable? Kaeko is the voice of the party because she is the loudest voice, but she looks to Xarria for the brains of like, is this a smart idea?
Well, yeah, we had 0 intelligence, 0 wisdom, 0 experience, and then Valis.
Valis and Zenata were 0 fucks. Like that was their thing. 0 fucks given.
Valis and Zenata were soldiers.
Yep.
They were looking to someone, right? They looked to somebody to do the thing, right? And so like Xarria was the only person, like, yeah, she wasn't the loudest, she was much more subdued, but all of us, like, I know anytime there was a group decision, I always was like, Xarria, what do you think? Sorry. Hey, Xarria, you're the only like logical thinker in this entire group, so please make a decision.
Especially after being like, oh, Kaito's the boss. Come on, Kaeko, what are we doing here? And then like rein back in. Let the
and
adults
like,
make
wait,
the
Dorlen's the smart one. He is the smart brain. He's a thinker.
God. All right.
And you were just like, we were in true Raven Queen fashion, just like putting the information in people's brains constantly.
Have you considered not being a fuckwit? Oh, I hadn't actually thought about that. Chris, I think you're the only one who hasn't answered this. What's the most surprising thing about your character?
Oh God. A lot of Dorlen just kind of came out as random things happened, and it's just like trying to make impulsive choices with him, like, and keep. I think the thing. Dorlen, you little shit.
Yeah, that just kind of happened. That was just kind of like, God,
was beautiful.
Damn it, you're gonna make me look bad.
And a meme was born.
I think the thing about playing Dorlen, it was a personal thing, actually. It was more for me. Yeah, we touched on it earlier. The energy of being able to play like that kind of a character that just keeps talking and making bullshit and just keeps going and going and going, like whenever like he's on. And I was just like thinking about it even now sometimes it's a bit exhausting, but just being able to like get into the character, put on the costume, and like being half asleep and then being like, I just have to keep talking and just keep going and going and going and picking up speed and going faster and faster and faster until somebody else cuts off. And then, you know, of course you got to be quiet so that people can hear what they're saying. And then like that was an interesting experience. And
it was very impressive you managing to do that, because what a lot of people don't realize is that because we're broadcasting, I mean, we're using high-speed internet, right? But there still is about a quarter-second delay. So having a character who doesn't shut up but keeps talking, and more or less doesn't talk over people, really difficult. Really difficult. There's a lot of restraint that you showed, and a lot of, like, you paid attention, you had empathy, you had intuition, like, very excellent work, Chris. It's a very complicated, like, the mechanics and the performative aspect of it, really more complicated than it seems like it is. And you were very good at reining yourself in. All of you were. Like, it was really impressive. If you could go back and change one thing, an action of your character, a decision you made, what would it be?
Oh man, that's hard because it's been so long.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. We can skip this one. It's
I have one, and I think it's something that I only would have done in a home game. Okay. There was a point, it was I barely, like, it was a sentence that I threw out there, but it was essentially like Sabina was thinking of leaving and was going to go after I forget the woman that we ended up finding dead.
Oh yeah, the one that Maggie killed. That yes. Was it's one of the A names. The only problem I have with this module, everyone has a damn A name.
It's my rule of naming people. I can't remember. Anyway, it was me. I named all of them. Believe it or not, I actually wrote most of them. No, that's
Aloysia.
Yes. Oh, so Sabina at one point was going to leave and just go find her and kill her. And I was actually at a point where I was thinking of taking levels of rogue instead of levels of warlock, which actually at that point it was just rogue,
but that wouldn't have fit your character because they do it from behind. Got him.
Oh, Jerry. Oh, baby. Hello, little Valis.
Hello, little Valis. For those of you who are listening on podcast later, Chris has gone and retrieved the very large child that now lives in their house.
He's
yeah, right. Can we just take into
his head's almost as big as Caitlin's.
He's over half her height.
Caitlan was pregnant when we were doing.
She was not pregnant for parts of this.
Pregnant.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah. And now there's this human that is actually large now. This
true facts.
I saw him finally again.
You guys had to wait a month and a half for the finale because that guy showed up early. And Caitlan was in the hospital that night, being like the night of the finale. And you're like, I think I can still make it to game.
Forever. And then they were like, actually, we're admitting you. And I was like, oops. And then they were like, actually, how about we have this kid tonight at like 9 p.m. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's why game took a long time for those of you who are watching live.
Yes.
So how's little Valis doing?
You desperately wanted him to be named Valis.
Yes.
At least a middle name, right?
God, we should have put it as his middle name.
Yeah.
Rainn.
It's not too late.
Not too late.
Is it too?
I don't know.
We could put a collection up for the name change amount.
There you go.
That's true. He is over one, so I think it's
do a GoFundMe for the name change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Orion Valis Bloggington.
Can you say hi?
Hello.
Hello,
He's very sleepy.
everyone.
All right, let's burn through some of these questions, okay? We have a question.
Sleepy.
How did you come up with your names? Does anybody want to answer that one?
Name generator.
Name generator. That's not true. We talked about your name and you were like, I want to do this. I'm like, it was like Keika. And I'm like, you should be Kaeko.
Okay, I start with name generator and then I go
Yeah,
from
that's
there.
Would you be interested in returning to Xarria or playing
I
another
have
critical
one, I'm
role
sorry.
setting? Oh, sorry.
Xarria means something.
What is it?
Xarria actually means little princess, so that tied into her like former nobility backstory. And Rainn is like washing clean, like a clean slate, like she was trying to break
Oh.
from that. Yeah, so Rainn wasn't actually her actual last name. I guess if you're watching this, it's not really a spoiler anymore, but
Her last name was Kennedy.
Oh
She
no.
was Secret Kennedy.
Not good.
No, it's going to be Den.
It's Dennis. Denny's. All right. Anybody else have a name thing they want to hop on? No? All right. Would you be interested in returning to Xarria or playing another critical role setting? Sure.
Yeah, I think it was fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the world and yeah, playing in it. It was a
Yeah.
little daunting, but I'd love to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So a question from Vebjorn Kristovic. I have questions about how you prepared for the final battle and how to make it difficult. We kind of touched on that before, but basically when I was preparing for the final battle, it's much less about the mechanics and much more about the interaction with the characters. You need to make it emotionally difficult. You need to make it hard for them to engage with the fight on an emotional level more than a physical level. So if you've been doing your job up to that point by making Elixian sympathetic, then it is particularly easy. So most of the prep I did was emotional for the role-playing aspect. I am very proud of the way that I portrayed Elixian in the final scenes when he's actually there. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of like beating my chest and emotion. And I prepped for that for days. And if you can nail that, it's good. If you're looking just mechanically, the petrifying effects, there are a lot of effects that were going to break your party up inside of his power set. The knife that petrifies you, use the hell out of that. Split your party up. If you need to make it harder, have more power drawn from the 3 statues that they have, or the 3 holy sites. That way, if they have to shut those holy sites down, it is a bigger hit to him, but he's hitting them harder first. And then finally, don't let them long rest before they go in. Always the easiest one in D&D. Make them go in when they're weak. Period. Those are my suggestions for that. From JS29099 on YouTube. Perfect timing. I just started DMing Netherdeep, session 3 this weekend, and binging your whole series was a huge part of my prep. I'd love to hear if y'all had any tips on making the emotional beats of my campaign hit. Our first campaign was Witchlight, and I find myself falling on the habit of playing NPCs a little goofy, which doesn't always fit the tone. I'm sure that a lot of people have some input on this. I'll start off and say that goofy is absolutely fine, because the goofier you are, when you pull back and get serious, it hits harder. So be sure to balance humor, seriousness, and drama. And don't forget that I'd say 2 out of 3 times, the class clown at your high school had some deep-seated emotional scarring.
Don't play a stereotype necessarily, because those are very shallow, very one note. You can start with maybe with a note of something, like, yes, class clown, and start goofy, but make sure you have that second layer underneath, because otherwise it becomes very one note.
Yeah, ask why.
If a lot of your characters and NPCs tend to be pretty goofy, make sure there's one that's a foil. Like you need that to help those things come in. Like give them each a different personality trait that's very, very different and obvious, and makes them unique.
Mm-hmm.
Things like Betrayer's Rise are a great way for you to also instill a little bit of seriousness in your campaign. Put out, I use Google Forms because they're easy to fill out and they put everything into a spreadsheet for me. Ask your players what the character's darkest fears are or worst memories. And if they're resting in Betrayer's Rise, that's a great way to run side scenes. And run them in front of the group if your table's comfortable with it, like being on display and spotlighted like that. And make sure the fears are not, I'm afraid of losing a fight. Like, make sure they're, when they provide something, make sure you know why. Why are you afraid of losing a fight? Sure, if you want to provide that, I'm afraid of getting beaten up. Why? Because I used to get beaten up all the time and I remember how powerless it made me feel, is a good answer to that. But just because I'm tough, you got to ask, well, why is being tough important to you?
And the character doesn't have to know that's why. But you, as the person playing them, knowing why helps branch out to like where everything is coming from, and helps you give you an idea on what kind of reactions that they're going to have to things. And discovering that is really good thing to do. But no, go ahead.
I don't want to cut you off if you're not done.
Oh no, I'm just rambling.
Okay. Valid. That's me talking most of the time. This is why Chris and I get on so well, because we just ramble at each other constantly.
Hasn't
Just
happened
back and
enough.
forth.
Ramble.
Very true, I know. So one of the things I was going to say about playing serious NPCs, I think a lot of DMs, and this is sort of from all of our how to run things, I think a lot of DMs want to surprise their players with stuff. I think there's a lot to be said for having that upfront conversation of saying, hey, we just came out of Witchlight. It was really goofy. It was really fun. This is going to have a dark tone. Are you guys on board with that? Because I want to run something that's a little bit deeper. The NPCs aren't going to be as goofy. We're going to really lean into that. And then if your players are leaning into the darkness, it's going to be way easier to lean into that when everybody at the table is on board. And obviously still having those moments of levity is important, but having, as long as everybody is upfront on board with the tone, you're gonna lean into it a lot easier. So don't feel like you're ruining things for your players by being upfront with them. Just have those conversations ahead of time.
With that in mind, those conversations are pivotal. It is an understandable but amateurish mistake to think that things like discussion in advance, content warnings, or any type of discussion at all to set up future plot events is a weakness for a story or will spoil a surprise. Okay? We all know that we get presents on our birthday. We don't know exactly what we're getting or when. That is the surprise. It's the anticipation. And if you discuss with your players and you know what they are down for, this is, I'm sorry to say, but anyone who is into any type of non-vanilla activity knows that you have discussions about consent. You know what people are down for because it allows you to hit your limits. This is the same in any part of life, including role-playing, acting, and any type of performance. If you are going into it and you know what people are willing to do and what people are interested in, you can angle things better and you give the players a sense of agency. It's really important.
Kind of jump in on that. Raven with Baubles is asking in the chat, saying, I would love to know what you each told Kelly that he took and ran with for Betrayer's Rise. Going with that, yes, Betrayer's Rise was collaboration because Kelly, we initially answered the survey and then Kelly, I forget our conversations, but Kelly kind of then pitched ideas or asked what is okay, what's not okay, and kind of asked a bit of like about the character and what would happen. So I knew roughly what Kaeko was going to be scared of. I had no idea how Kelly was going to interpret that. So it's a lot of like, oh yeah, I know what's coming, but I don't know how it's going to happen because Kelly's mind is a beautiful thing. And I just know what Kaeko is having in
Beautiful
her head,
mind.
but I don't know how he's gonna warp that, and he did a great job.
You know what
give-
I do when
you
I
give
do
Kelly,
nightmare scenes?
You give Kelly some wood and he builds a house. It's a haunted house, but it's a house.
You give me some wood and I'll build you a home, Chris.
Oh baby.
Oh baby. Honestly, as a writer, the trick that I do is whenever I have to do a nightmare scene, I just imagine myself as the character and try to traumatize myself. If I can make myself upset, I know I'm going to make someone else upset. I'm really easy to make upset though. I'm a real softie. So I also would not suggest that everybody run a table like I run a table, because one of the beautiful things about the team at Dork Tales is that I have players where we know each other's boundaries really well. We have had multiple discussions about this, and they trust me enough that if we going to go into a scene, there's an upcoming campaign, a chronicle actually, that we're going to be running starting in late February. It's a technocracy game, and in it, I am going to be able to tell Chris and Robin, because I'm a spoiler, you're both in that game, what horrible pieces of shit you are. I am going to be able to just destroy you verbally. And I know that afterwards we're going to have a hug out and it's going to be fine. But you guys know the character I'm going to be playing in that, who has power over you. And it is going to be awful. But it's awful because you guys want that. And I'm warning you in advance. Like, I don't feel this way about you guys, and you know it. You are wonderful people, but this character absolutely hates you. So make sure your characters are okay with that type of thing. Make sure your players are okay with that type of thing, because some people don't like being verbally abused, and some people love it.
And it can change, on a day to day. Like, there are some days where I'm like, hey, can't deal with this today. I absolutely got destroyed at work or something. I got an actual telling off to work. So hey, tonight maybe chill a little bit, and I'll let you know when you're getting a little too close, because I just had a very bad day at work, and real life unfortunately slips into game. But that's the thing where it's like, yeah, I've signed up for this. Consent is always, you're allowed to always withdraw consent or change the lines a bit, but you just have to have that open line of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a larger discussion, of course, but let's keep going. So Clay has asked, would it break the game / module if I gave out multiple vestiges of a divergence? They would work for them, obviously. It's not going to be free. To avoid giving one person main character syndrome, I have 6 players, barely in chapter 2, but I've already seen some tension about one character having the jewel and everyone else only having basic equipment. Skipping down, would it wreck everything for a later game if I wrote vestiges in the story to make everyone feel special instead of just have one character? I'm a relatively new DM, but it took a long time D&D lover, and I'm a bit nervous in case it comes back to bite me. Don't give them anything that will absolutely unbalance your game, period. The vestige is very powerful. There is something there that if you hadn't already given it to them, I would have suggested changing the vestige into like 6 rings or something. Or perhaps at a higher level, the vestige can be broken into multiple pieces that anybody can use. You know, like when it evolves, it's you know, it becomes 6 gems instead of 3 gems or something like that, or they all have an arcane connection to it. You could play with that tension that one of them has it, and that the jealousy. It depends what you want out of the campaign. I can see the vestige becoming the 1 ring, and people being very much like, why do you get to have it? I should have it. But that's also something where I would say the person with the vestige cannot touch ruidium. Is my snap judgment. Everybody else starts getting ruidium items that are going to be very powerful. Maybe introduce them even a little early, like as soon as they get to Ank'Harel, have 1 fall into the player's hands. Okay? But for some reason, the vestige resists ruidium. And
nullifies it.
Yeah, or causes physical pain. You can't have both on at the same time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the vestige is something. Yeah.
The thing about the vestige is it wasn't necessarily giving Caitlan, it wasn't giving Xarria a boon. It was
giving
a
Caitlan
group,
tons.
It was a group boon to use. So even though Xarria had the vestige, it was like, yeah, but that vestige helps me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely specifically tried to help other people with it. I was like, oh, let's use one of the what are the powers for
Mhm.
I'll re-roll that kind of a thing, or would you like to would you like that? I also I definitely I'm not the type of person who likes to have the like super powerful artifact personally. But I was like, yeah, I guess it makes sense, right? But it was always like if anybody wanted it, she would pass it around. It wasn't like, no, chose me, this is mine kind of a thing. And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you need to attune to it to use it.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that's one of
But
the danger.
if that is something that is kind of starting to create tension in your group, have a talk
It
about
does.
what can
Mhm.
be
Oh, it
done.
does, okay.
Because I think the other vestiges of divergence are pretty powerful and kind of attuned to give like big boons to the person using it. So your game could very easily become overpowered. So I would say maybe just have a conversation, introduce the rudium sooner, like Kelly
Mhm.
suggested.
I feel like Rudium isn't enough of a threat in the module as it is, and introducing it sooner could really also make it more dramatic, more of an arms race. So yeah,
Mhm.
what else would you say, Robin, on top of that? So you'd increase tension by having more Ruidium sooner.
Yeah, and just talk to your table if there is that tension of like main character syndrome happening with one player that has the vestige of divergence. Maybe offering advice for the role play of being like, hey, make sure you're also using it on the party as well if you're not already, and then just really kind of hitting home like this is meant to be kind of everyone's thing. Yeah, it's hard and it can very easily have that main character energy. I think with us it really helped that Xarria didn't want necessarily to be the person. We were just like, no, it makes sense, you're the healer, take it. So it kind of helped that for us with our role playing, but it's just, yeah, talk to your table if people are starting to feel jealous.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, it definitely plays to like Caitlin's playing ability of playing that I'm not gonna take this on and make it be about me. It's I'm taking this, and as the character, it plays into the having no idea that she was the leader, right? It's just like,
Mhm.
no, only a leader takes on what could be a huge burden on behalf of everyone else, just to because it kind of, oh yeah, I guess that is my burden to carry, like without questioning it. Like that's such a choice that so few players would make, and Caitlan did it without thinking. So yeah.
Oh, talking about the vestige.
Yeah.
I think Dorlen grabbed it.
I
if
think
remember
originally,
Of course he did.
correctly. Of
Yeah.
course
Yeah,
he
he
well,
did.
yeah, he touched it. He was like,
I
"Oh,
wouldn't have
okay."
expected anything else.
I know sometimes too when you're playing a game, I find oftentimes like a lot of people like go towards greed being the main, some variation of it being the reason for adventuring and whatnot, and like having characters that have other main motivations can really help when it comes to situations like that too. Because like I said, Dorlan grabbed it and he was like, "Oh my god, this is neat. I might want to study it later," kind of thing. But yeah, you should have it. That makes sense. You're the divine one. It's some sort of divine thing, and I wonder if it will resonate with your energy. And then like we'll be able to see what kind of a reaction it has, and like just going with something like that. I think one of the things for the on the DM side, and hopefully this isn't just something that hasn't been touched on already.
Mhm.
Kelly goes out of his way to make sure everyone has their moment in the spotlight. Every character has their moments in the spotlight. The vestige was a big deal. It absolutely was, but not as big of a deal as each individual's character's moments, and didn't ever feel like it was a big deal that somebody had an artifact and the rest of us didn't.
That's fair. Yeah. Like spread. But then again, if you're a new DM, you're probably worried about loot. I would say try not to worry so much. And talk to your, a lot of DMs feel really uncomfortable talking to their players because they feel like that should all just run smoothly, and that you never see like any of the professional DMs talking to their players. They talk to their players all the freaking time off camera. Okay? It just doesn't look like they do. There's a quote from Futurama you should always hold to your heart, which is, if you're doing it right, it looks like you're doing nothing at all. But there's a lot of leg work. You ever seen a duck swim? Like, ducks look like they're gliding across the water. Their legs are moving furiously. So it's okay. It's okay if you are swimming ferociously under the surface of the water. Nobody needs to know. It's all a magic
And
trick.
some of that comes also from just having conversations before developing characters so that everybody has their specialty. So
Mhm.
everybody has something they're good at. Because yeah, if you're competing with everybody else to get a moment to be the cool one, you're going to start fighting over loot.
Yeah.
Because like you need something to feel special about.
It's true.
So if everybody does the same thing, you're not going to feel special. The only person who's going to seem special is the loudest one, which is not very fun to play. So try and plan out, and don't allow the teleporting thing where somebody magically appears in a room where somebody else is doing something neat.
I open
does
it.
the same
I open
thing.
it. You're not even there. You're on a different plane. Yeah, talk to your players. A little bit of social awareness goes a long way in tabletop games. All right, last questions from a audience member. Judith Steen asks, "Yay, I thought it would never come. I've watched your whole playthrough as an inspiration for running my own campaign, and my players are approaching the end. Mostly I want to ask about handling the ending. Obviously, you guys had to round it off a bit, but I want to hear your thoughts on the following. How to create urgency and desire in the players to even pursue finding, saving Elixion." The mystery is a really good one. There's this big mystery. You could hint at a great treasure if they're, find out what motivates them and lean on that. First off, find out what motivates your players, find out what motivates the characters, and have a discussion about this. Like, it's okay to say, like, hey, you got, the whole point of this module is that you find something that propels you on a quest. Let me know if there's anything I can do to make this more personal. Oh, it's you. Hey, welcome. Hey, good to see you in the chat. So I would say anything that gives them a reason to go. I would say dream visions. I would say whenever you can have Elixion reach out to them and communicate with them, even as limited as it is. Draw parallels between his life and their lives. Make him sympathetic without making him seem mopey. And make him seem desperate. You got to make him seem good from the get-go, because he is the hardest part of this game to get right. Anybody have anything they want to throw in there? Like what motivates you to go after Elixion?
I was going to say a good one could maybe be a sense of competition. Like, have it be that if you are still rivals with the rivals, have it be like they're rushing and they're going to be the heroes if you don't hurry up. But as Kelly and I were saying, like I was really struggling with how to make Sabina want to go. And my thing was eventually that, like, well, the rest of the characters are going, and this is the first time that she's had family. And so she can't let them go without her. Like she doesn't want to risk them dying and losing them. So she doesn't care about the world. She cares about them. So I think that ties into what you said, Kelly, about like find out what the player and what the player thinks their character needs to drive, and then provide that option. Like provide that, even if you have to make up an NPC, make up a little side story. You know, there's a lot of those in Anchorel. So whatever side story you need to run to make them go, bring that in. But yeah, again, talk to your players, ask them what they want.
Fair.
Have somebody that can answer the phone too. That's always helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Trizelta. I appreciate you.
Traz is out of work at the moment. As after we fired him, we brought him back for this little stint, but I'm sure he'd be happy to answer your phones for you.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not paying him. Are you?
We'll write him glowing reviews.
Yes.
Mhm.
No. Yeah, he's back
Yes.
on a test run.
Oh, he's an intern right now. He's interning. How to balance the hunter following the players versus getting a rest. Depends whether or not you want the last fight to be very stressful. Because if you want it to be very, very stressful, don't give them a rest. The hunter, like I said before, the hunter should be a slasher. You should be able to trick him. You should be able to outrun him. You can always leave the Netherdeep too. If your players really want to, they can swim all the way back to the beginning. They can leave the Netherdeep and then they can come back. That kind of takes the stakes down though, so I wouldn't allow that. I would say actually Chris stymied me at one point because he's like, I'm gonna take a bunch of pieces of this guy and hide them in different parts of the dungeon so that he can't reform. And I was like, you son of a bitch, that's not gonna work. But it's not gonna work out of my convenience because that's really clever. So that was really interesting though. You could allow that and then have him slowly reform via like T1000, turn him into the Terminator, right? But allow the players to maybe get some rest depending on where they are. You could also break up the heart of, not the heart of despair, the grottos into like, it takes him this long to reform and this long to hunt you. Remove his ability to automatically know where the players are, I would say, if you want your players to have a little more rest, and then have him roll to hunt them. Otherwise it's a little much. What to do? So they just dropped another one. Did you guys think the last fight was dangerous? Thumbs up if you thought it was dangerous. Thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up. Everybody did thumb up. Christine's squinting a little because nothing's dangerous when you're a blender.
I also can't remember. I feel like I was successfully hitting something, but I don't remember
you are.
what the fight was like.
I feel like some of us went down or were really darn close to, or
I remember feeling stressed.
You got like encased in ruidium at one point.
oh
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
Xarria's not getting out of this.
It's fine. You didn't need to. So how to balance the hunter. We did that one. What to do about the rivals in the in-game in case the relationship is not friendly? Oh boy, we could go on for a long way about this. If they remain rivals, I would turn it into a three-way battle outside of the heart. If I had to do it again, where they're outside the heart trying to figure out how to get in, but you can only really get in if you have the vestige, if I remember correctly, and they're like, we're taking it. And then in the middle of it, the hunter shows up, and then you guys have the hunter fighting you, fighting them, fighting you, but the hunter's fighting them too, and it turns into this big melee, right? And it could be that you end up in the heart of despair, limping and bleeding after that encounter. I think that could be good. It also could be that you could turn it into a role-playing encounter where you have to try to convince them, very much the way that you try to heal Elixion. That it has to be like, look, we have to do this or else bad things, you know? That's three-way melees are so much fun. And you can also have it like spill out through different like parts of the dungeon. You could also have it be that everybody in the dungeon, in ours, the characters and the rivals teamed up to like basically dungeon sweep and to find the moats that allow you, it's the moats that allow you through, that's right. But you could also have a race. And if you want to really do this and you've got a table that can do this, you could split up the game so that you have little side sessions where Sabina and Xarria are both trying to get this one and this other one and this other one, etc., etc. You're doing these individual relay races. You could do that as well. Did you feel you missed out on some of the more psychological challenges in the Chasm of Yearning because you guys didn't end up going in there because you skipped that entire portion? I mean, the thing I miss out on the most is that I wasn't able to use this image of all the hands, but I forced that in because I really wanted that because it's creepy and sexual, and it's the part of the game that's vaguely sexual. It's mostly like this like desire to be touched, but there's also an element of it that's a little sinister and a little sexy at the same time. So I kind of missed that. I kind of feel like we missed out a little bit about that. But at the same point, the final dungeon was going a little long. Like we got through, I picked and chose what I wanted the most out of those. And use those. So I don't think we really missed out. Yeah,
We also
that's what.
literally had a ticking clock against us for
Get one of your pregnants, or get one of your players knocked up, and
There you go.
that'll help. You know,
Success.
success.
What did I miss?
What did you get? Nothing. You definitely hit it. So Judith says thank you for a great thanks for watching, Judith. It really, and thanks for being here right now. It's lovely to see you. I've got a couple of last things. So if you want to see more Call of the Netherdeep, don't forget, in fact, you might not even know, but Christa just finished running Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. And the Echoes of Valor show up in 2 episodes of Call of the Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. They show up at the very end of Winter Special, Season 3's Winter Special first, and they are the entire cast of the second Winter Special as a surprise. So that is going to be coming. You can watch it on Patreon right now if you join Patreon at patreon.com/dorktales. It's $5 for a month, and it goes directly to feeding me, which is good, and buying, like, you know, Taldore hats and stuff, which is good. This is now a business expense because I wore this on Call of the Netherdeep. It's ridiculous. But you can go ahead and see that. It'll be coming out in like December or January for public, though, if you want to wait or you're broke. Mood. I have a BFA. I'm always broke. So it's definitely cool to go check that out. I need to know, we're going to do, my other thing was that I'm very happy that Valas worked as well as he did, because during our session 0, I pitched 3 characters at you. And you guys all voted for someone besides Valas. And actually, I took a bunch of shit in the YouTube comments about being a bad DM because I gave you options and then took it back. I don't think the other characters would have been as good, because one of them was not for the characters you ended up playing, right? Because one of them was basically Aladdin the Abjurist. I thought that would have been okay. He would have been like a little brother, and we had too many little brothers in the group, or little like sibling characters, right? And the other was Keanu Reeves, the monk, which would have been cool, but he definitely would have been the "go on, I've got this." And I think it was the right choice.
Which was kind of what Valas was, but without the Keanu Reeves accent.
I know.
Well, and speaking of that part, you ran a lot of that through me as well, because I wasn't actually in the game at that point. And I think you talked about what like the big potential end for Valas would be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just tell him that this one would be better. Just tell him you thought it over and go. Just no, they should go with this one. They should go with this one.
I took your advice.
Be amazing, and they will love it, and it will be so good and so traumatizing.
So it's okay to take things back from your players after you offer them, but just let them know out of character. Like, because if you watch session 0, you can see me kind of like biting my lip and thinking about it the entire time before I'm like, actually, shit. No, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't.
It's communication. Like,
yeah, it's communication. And I think if I remember on the session, and I think that's why maybe you got a little bit of the shit on the YouTube comments, is that you were a little cocky-ish with the take back of like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. Actually, I thought of something better for you guys than what you want, kind of thing. So I think it was mainly maybe the attitude.
Oh, so I dug my own grave.
I think you may have dug your own grave for that one.
I do agree. If you only watch the YouTube, that's how it feels, because that is kind of how I felt during that episode, during that session.
Yeah,
but
a little bit same.
We talked about it afterwards, and you explained like, yeah, you know, I just don't think, I think it's just going to make so much more sense. And the way that you explained it, like after the cameras stopped, that made me feel a lot better about it. And so I get where people were coming from, because they didn't see everything that was happening.
It's because all of the blood was pooling in my Matt Mercer wig. Right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And it was a very tight vest thing.
Yes.
I can't believe someone left a comment on session 0. I know we're not supposed to talk about bad YouTube comments, but I love it because I even painted my nails. I dressed like Matthew Mercer. I put on tons of jewelry, and it's like, this guy's just trying to be Matthew Mercer. And I'm like,
yes,
yeah, that's the joke, man. Congratulations.
we had a TikTok where we all like dressed up, and I think you also dressed up like Matt Mercer.
I dressed
in
up
that,
like
too.
Matt Mercer. I was like, hello, welcome to Critical Role. This is my Matt Mercer voice. Hi, welcome to Critical Role, Call of the Netherdeep. This is Critical Role, right? And I'm just like, I'm doing the fucking fun. Anyway, here's the thing. All right, on the way out.
Eyebrow.
Christa, when you're laughing, could you please unmute so that I can hear the snort? I miss it.
I didn't snort. You didn't miss on anything. You're
Oh,
okay.
Good.
That's
do miss
great.
that.
Okay. All right, guys. All right. This is lightning round. Favorite rival. Go.
Maggie.
Xarria.
Irvin.
Yeah. Dennis. Dennis. You mean Dennis?
Dennis, sorry.
I don't think I could choose. Maggie stole my heart. But I did also really, really like Dermot.
Mhm.
Like Dermot was just a cool little guy. Like he was just
a little guy.
he was just so cool. Like I really liked him.
Remind me which one was which.
Maggie's the ogre. Galsariad is the bitch elf. Io is the blue half orc, who is
The blue
basically the
bitch
leader.
elf.
Right.
Yeah,
Dermot's
the
little
Genasio.
goblin,
Dermot's the little goblin boy.
who's
And
really
then
nice, a cleric.
Dennis was Shaggy.
Dennis
Yeah.
was Shaggy.
Shaggy Rogers.
Right. Okay. I feel like for the majority of the time, I didn't really have at all a favorite, but there one I had a favorite moment in like one of the fights, I think, and it was Galsariad, the bitchy elf guy, because he had some great lines in there.
I had to make him bitchy. It's like when I had a YouTube comment about that as well, which was when was Galsariad ever funny? I'm like, you can't play him like he's written in the book the whole time. He'd be so boring just being like, I'm Galsariad. I'm very serious. You have to throw in a little bitch at the end of it, or else it's just not as much fun.
That ties
All right.
into what I said, is that if Kelly didn't humanize them, no one would be friends with them.
Exactly. You got to make them likable enough that you like to hate them, because otherwise
I did also like Io.
Io was great, but she's so vanilla.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like
You played her very well.
Well, because Io and Sabina were the same character in a lot of ways, right? One was just taller than the other. And we kept coming up against that, like at the end where you guys teamed up a bunch of times where it was just like, fine, I'm going to take point. No, I'm going to take point. No, I'm going to take Draw those parallels, man, because it makes people connect to them. Like, the best way to create a rival is to take a trait that the character has and just slightly twist it, or a weakness, you know? But hey, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Call of the Netherdeep. Thank you for watching the campaign. If you are watching this because you're running your own game, good luck. It is actually one of my favorites that we've ever ran. The cast of this game, of course, was a huge part of that. You guys were all amazing. But also, there's a lot of great stuff in this book. It does require some tinkering because this is a toolkit, not a... you know, it's not a paint by numbers as much as it would like to be. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube comments here. You can join our Discord and ask us directly. The link's always down below. And why don't we go around in reverse order, say who you are, where we can find you, and we'll sign off. Let's start with Christine.
All right. Well, I'm Christine. I'm also Lady Liliana on Twitch and most social medias. I did play Zenata Vosh for this. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
I'm glad to not paint myself green anymore.
And folks, if we hit 175 patrons on Patreon, Christine's going to run a Regency era game where I'm going to paint myself green. So consider joining the Patreon. Any tier level that isn't free will count toward that total.
That's super exciting.
It's super exciting. Caitlan or Orion, I'm not sure who's technically closer.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he played Xarria too, right?
That's true. Pilot her like a mech.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Caitlan. Yeah, I'm also excited to not have to paint myself pink all the time, but actually costuming Xarria was really, really fun, so I might do it again. Have some pictures taken.
Do it.
I think that'll be fun. Anyway, I'm Petite Medic on all social medias except for Twitter, which is Petite Medic. still.
Beautiful.
And it was such a fun game. Actually, when we were saying, like, just say who we were again for the last time, I was like, oh, I mean, it's been like a year, but also, oh. Yeah, so thank you so much. What a fun ride. It was such a good game.
It was really good. Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. I had the pleasure of gaming with all of you here for this fantastic game. I got to play Dorlen, Wildrock, and also, yeah, it was good times. I just really glad to be here and be included in this. So thank you all very much, and I'm hoping to do more gaming with you soon. That means you too, Christa. I'll see you in there.
Christa, when I catch you. Christa, when I catch you.
Yeah. You can find me on Dork Tales, and I'm Blogg in the chat, and I'll be around.
You're in a lot of stuff.
I am.
Christa.
Hi, hello. I'm Christa. I played Sabina Moorden, our Beastmaster Ranger and Hexblade Warlock, and her Moorbounder companion Dax. There it is.
I missed that voice.
And Sabina's voice, I think that's one of the reasons I like her so much, is her voice is so good. But yes, you can find me on most social media as ChahistaFX, and occasionally here on Dork Tales when I'm not dying of being busy of everything else.
That's fair. Yeah.
I voted today, and I was gonna pre-vote, but I literally did not have time.
Yeah.
For voting
Christa,
open 12 hours a day for 5 days, I did not have time to go.
Christa is on a sabbatical from most Dork Tales things right now because they're trying to get their way too many plates spun. But
yes,
don't worry, they'll be back. They'll be back. What was the thing that you were going to say about Fandelver, though? You were going to say something about turning left?
So I was watching a Magic the Gathering video about lore of Phyrexians, because I'm that kind of a nerd now. But I was watching it, and they made a comment about things being about left-handedness. They were talking about how Dante's Inferno really informed a lot of this Phyrexian lore, but there is a comment about the fact that so left in Italian is sinistra, so like sinister comes from being left-handed and the left, and so in Dante's Inferno they constantly go left as you go down and down and down, further down. The only way to get further into hell is to go left, and the fact that you're going, spoilers, the fact that you're going into Elithanok and the left turn is what gets you there fastest. Is I don't, they're both written by Wizards of the Coast. I don't know if that was purposeful on both parts, but I thought that was interesting. Of maybe
no,
it's a Dante's
subconscious
reference, but yes, that's
that is the most academically nerdy thing that you've ever said.
Oh, and yes, Raven, technically Dork Tales did play Dax.
All right, Robin.
Hello, I'm Robin. You can find me usually mostly here on Dork Tales. Sometimes I stream on my own channel, Second Gamer at Twitch. And yes, the name is Kaeko Skaar, and it was my pleasure to meet you.
Oh, she flipped the script. And everybody, I'm Kelly Clark. I have been the host and dungeon master here on Call of the Netherdeep. You can find me here on Dork Tales because it's my channel, where I run a ton of stuff. And you can also find me, you can find my writing over on the Storyteller's Vault, and very soon I have a book coming out that I wrote, Robin did the layout for, and we got a bunch of great art for, going out on the Dungeon Masters Guild. I'll talk about that plenty, as well as some stuff that's coming out through our sponsor, Bookworm Games. And I'm writing several modules for that, which are finally just on the cusp of being done. It's just life and illness and stuff, because it's flu season. But thank you so much for joining us on this adventure. You guys were all amazing, and I can't wait to play more games with you. You guys are some of the best people on the whole planet, and some of the most wonderful people in any world that we visit. So
and thank you for taking a game and thank you for taking a game that could have been a complete disaster and running it spectacularly. So
yeah.
Hey, I did it for you. I did it for you.
There's a reason that our how to run games are some of the most popular ones, and it's because you are very good at manipulating what could be bad and turning it into incredible.
Are you saying I'm manipulative?
In the best
Just a
way.
little-
Yes.
In the best way. All right. So,
Hey,
all
you
right.
called me hornier than a goat earlier. I'm allowed to call you manipulative.
Okay, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. All right. So, Caitlan, how many patrons do we need before you run a campaign? Because like Dragon Heist is just right there. 300.
You keep trying to get me to run Dragon Heist. I'll think about it.
Good think about
Cat
it.
game
All right.
Version 2.
Cat game. Cats do Dragon Heist?
Cats do the cat heist.
The cat heist?
Amy would finally
Hmm.
shut up because the cats are actually doing the heist at least.
Yeah.
What if you ran Dragon Heist and we were all Dragonborn? Then it would be a Dragon Heist.
Whoa.
There we
Amy
go.
would finally shut up about it. All right, and then the last thing that I have to say to you all is be nice to your players, be awful to their characters, be good to each other, and remember, communication is the best part of role playing at the table. The other part is hiding your dice rolls. And besides as the DM, but no, have a great time. Enjoy yourself. There's a lot of character in this module, so please enjoy it. And finally, Robin, what's the baby's name?
Did we come up with a name? I forget.
Tune in to find out what Bodhi and Kaeko's baby will be named in the next episode of Call of the Netherdeep, coming someday. Good night, everybody.
Often.
Oh, that's right. Remember, everybody, come often, come loud. Talk to you soon. Bye.